Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our Committee of Whole on Monday, January 11th. All of Council is present except for the Mayor, who is logging in presently, but will be joining us momentarily. And I'm Councillor Lorraine Allen. I'll be the Chair. And on behalf of my colleagues and all staff and councillors here today, I'd like to wish everybody a Happy New Year. This is our first meeting as Council in the new year, and let's hope that 2021 is going to be our best year yet. Lots of things to look forward to. So there are no amendments this evening to the agenda, I don't think. There's no disclosure of monetary interest. Seeing none. We have 3 delegations this evening, all of them with requests for community grants for 2021. And the reason that they do a delegation and come and do a presentation is that they are asking for more than $10,000 in their consideration for our community grants. And so starting that off is Reverend Christopher Ryan and Michelle Bellows. Welcome.
Thank you. It's wonderful to be here this evening. I have slides, if you want me to start right away with the slides.
Okay, I think Dave Crawford's going to do that for us.
Perfect. Thank you very much. I'd like to say, first of all, thank you very much for your support last year. And thank you very much for the top-up of our COVID-19 brown bags and blessings when the Social Services Relief Fund funds were exhausted. I'd like also to thank Nadine Bennett. Nadine Bennett's administrative advice last year helped us to shore up our application by submitting it jointly. With respect to the program that you supported last year, 2020, of course, was overtaken by events. What we did differently, and in some cases, our objectives were exceeded, and in other cases, it was impossible to meet our objectives, although their importance and relevance remained. In some respects, this application is a repetition of last year's application with some amendments. This Smiths Falls Food Security Advocacy Group really started in July of 2018. It was a forum through which a number of groups in the town could collaborate, cooperate, and deconflict schedules with respect to food security. Our early focus was on collaboration and coordination of resources and advocacy for the development of sustainable programs and infrastructure. And our approach, of course, as evidenced here, one of our approaches was to raise a concern and seek public participation and support through the community grant process. And I just have to get my right mouse. Your generosity last year and the unanticipated success of our collaboration brings us here this year. And your generosity last year and the program that we were able to set up was really helpful with respect to our response to COVID-19, and I'll speak to that later. If I can go to the next slide, please. Here today is Michelle Bellows, who's the Chief Executive Officer of the Rideau Community Health Services, and me, I'm Christopher Ryan, the Minister at Trinity United Church, and I act as an administrative assistant to the Food Security Advocacy Group. Next slide, please. Michelle, are you able to speak to the, oh, sorry, I'm ahead of myself. The presentation is going to follow a few headings. We'll speak to the need, which are 2, food security and social isolation. Next slide, please. We'll speak to the means and the end, which is increasing social capital. Next slide, please. We'll speak to a possible pathway or a common room, a meeting place for some of our most vulnerable members of our community. Next slide, please. And I'd like to go back to that unanticipated success. The framework of collaboration and communication that was supported through last year's grant enabled us to have a very swift, meaningful, and sustained response throughout COVID-19. Were it not for your support last year, we wouldn't have had the experience, the confidence, and the relationships in place to enable the work that has been going on in Smiths Falls in a variety of locations since mid-March of 2020. It's been wonderful. Thank you very much. Next slide, please. And now we begin with the need, of course, food security and social isolation. And although I can't see Michelle because the presentation is up, there are some slides that speak to the need with respect to food security. If we go to the next slide, please. And the next slide. And Michelle, would you like to speak to the need with respect to food security?
For sure. So thanks so much for having us come this evening. Rideau Community Health Services has been working with the group of organizations in Smiths Falls to support food security in our area now for close to a year. And we had earlier conversations with what a potential community hub could look like. And of course, COVID really has changed the way we're doing what we do and potentially will keep us changing for the next 6 to 9 months. And I hate saying that when we hear all the words about the vaccine. However, we know it's going to take a long time to get the volumes of immunizations out and rolled out. So for us, when we look at the need, we were grateful to be able to work with the organizations in Smiths Falls to help support the need for food security. And we were grateful for the town of Smiths Falls and a grant which we received, which we were able to turn over to food security. And we know that our community and that the families within our community, when you look at this slide in particular, I think it really highlights when you have less than $1,510 for everything else, that is substantial. And food insecurity, we know that over the course of COVID, and this is not just about COVID, but COVID has exacerbated what that looks like for our community. And Rideau Community Health Services has seen an increase in the number of families and individuals who are seeking support, and the other organizations as well. If we could go to the next slide, please. So we know that we have families that are employed. We know people are on ODSP, persons who are on Ontario Works, and what the implications of that can be for people to have not just food, but nutritious food and meals. And we've really worked hard over the last several months to be able to support that. I think more importantly, COVID has really exacerbated what social isolation looks like for our communities and for our certain members within our community. We know in the 2016 census, we had a greater proportion of persons greater than 65 years old in the Lanark County area. And as persons age, we know that social isolation can definitely increase, and COVID has truly contributed to that in a negative manner. Could we have the next slide, please? Thank you. So when we look at what the costs are, and we see rising costs, and you have an increase in growth in a community, we see increasing costs to live in a community, and that can lead to an increased need for food security within the Lanark County area and the Smiths Falls area. Could we have the next slide, please? So I'll turn it over to Christopher. And I do think that there is a passionate group within Smiths Falls who are working together and collaborating to help address food security in the Smiths Falls area. And I think we have a great opportunity in the coming months to be able to come together, to be able to look at creative and innovative ways for us to really be able to improve upon what has been an improvement since COVID-19 from last year. Over to you, Christopher.
Thank you very much, Michelle. And of course, again, this isn't about COVID-19, but I would like to add, just for those who may be curious, last year, just at Trinity, we anticipated having a community meal once a week for about 70 people. We were getting that consistently. Since the pandemic was declared, we quickly moved to 340 meals a week. That would be, I had to do my math, about 120 on Tuesday and on Saturday, brown bags, and 60 throughout the week that were delivered to people for whom mobility was challenged or for whom food preparation was problematic. It has been wonderful in terms of our ability and capacity to respond. And of course, that capacity to respond was made possible because of increased social capital. We're not just about food security, we're also about social isolation. With respect to the application last year, it was known that the mission was in jeopardy. And since then, of course, the mission has closed, which means that our folk who used to go to the mission have lost not just a noon meal during the week, they've also lost a gathering place. In response to that, Trinity, of course, has always had activities in addition to the meal on Tuesday, and St. Vincent de Paul, or the St. Vincent de Paul Society at St. Francis Roman Catholic Church, provides meals and activities. If I could go to the, nope, sorry. Social capital. We are not alone. None of the participating organizations are alone. And we pool not just our ability to prepare food, but we pool our relationships. Funding opportunities are increased through our collaboration because each of us bring with us our own relationships and resources. So Trinity, for example, is precluded from applying for Trillium funds. The United Church doesn't encourage that. The Tweed Collective is precluded from supporting religious communities, so we can't apply there. The Rideau Community Health Services aren't permitted to apply to the Tweed Collective as well. And some of our participating agencies have access to funds through their own larger institutions and foundations. So together we have a broad reach. If I could go to the next slide, please. 5 community groups are working together. We have the Rideau Community Health Services, new this year, Mississippi Rideau Lake Salvation Army, Trinity United Church, Westminster Presbyterian Church, and the St. Vincent de Paul Society participates with us, although they're not part of the grant application this year. Next slide, please. The numbers of meals that we anticipate serving is based on what we did the year before last. Obviously, we don't anticipate, like Trinity, from Trinity's perspective, we do not anticipate serving 340 meals a week, every week, once the pandemic is declared resolved. We anticipate going back to our former footing of 70 meals a week. The data I gave last year remains. I can give it if you wish. Mississippi Rideau Lakes, or the Salvation Army, they have one meal. It's a Friday noon meal. They have 42 settings a year with 60 participants at each setting for 2,520 meals. The Society of St. Vincent de Paul at St. Francis de Sales Roman Catholic Church, they have a weekly Wednesday meal with 50 settings a year with 60 participants for 3,000 meals. They also have a monthly Friday supper and social. That's 12 settings a year, 50 participants, which is 600 meals. And this is the forum in which they have their social time to follow. The Rideau Community Health Services during the pandemic stood up a noon meal on Mondays and Thursdays, distributed out of the Legion. So that is 104 settings a year, 135 participants for 14,040 meals. Now that figure will likely change once the pandemic is declared over, but it's the data we have for now. Trinity United Church, we will go back to Trinity on Tuesday with an easy supper once a week. That's 40 settings a year, 60 participants for 2,400 meals. We also have a monthly food preparation workshop and supper, 9 settings a year, 60 participants for 540 meals. And at this program, our folk prepare their own meals and are taught how to do it. We also hope to host 2 community barbecues in August and in July. Westminster Presbyterian Church, they host monthly community suppers on the 4th Sunday, and there's 8 suppers a year, 70 participants for 560 meals. So this year, we anticipate serving 23,840 meals. One of our objectives is to support community building. And we have done this as evidenced in our joint application, our joint advocacy. This year, it has been wonderful to have the addition of the Rideau Community Health Services. And again, these efforts have been not just satisfying, but they form the framework that permitted us to have an immediate and effective response to COVID-19. Yeah, could I have the next slide, please? With respect to other activities to address social isolation, we have social times at St. Vincent de Paul and the First Supper. We have activities at Trinity United Church, coffee, bingo, games, and such. And we are looking to expand what we do on Tuesdays. Prior to the pandemic, we had a community paramedic come in once a month on a Tuesday evening to do minor health assessments and referrals as needed. Next slide, please. Our hope and intent in the future is to provide a forum in which our folk can have access to information that assists them, and access to knowledge with respect to services to which they're entitled or may receive assistance. And this might range from presentations and education to perhaps periodic immunizations. Next slide, please. At our suppers, although not at all of them, we try to encourage those who come to participate in preparation where appropriate and cleanup when appropriate. And they participate in designing the program where appropriate, of course. Next slide, please. This fostering collaborative relationships and engaging the community, when it seemed as though we were losing our funding from the Social Services Relief Fund, the town immediately stepped up and assisted us with an additional grant of $12,791. Also, a group of realtors banded together and gave us close to $18,000 lump sum in support of our COVID-19 response. This is just a demonstration of the community's interest in this kind of activity and their willingness to give real material support. Next slide, please. Oh, again, with the inclusion of the Rideau Community Health Services, we really hope that our objective of standardizing menus in terms of nutritional value and quality will be advanced this year through the help of the Rideau Community Health Services. Next slide, please. Our effect. We've witnessed a positive impact beyond food security, wellness of body and spirit, of course. Last year, as I indicated, when we were doing our Trinity on Tuesday and the other programs, it was noted that there was a palpable reduction in anxiety amongst our folk. It was wonderful. The volunteer base is growing, and certainly the community is excited to get on board. And as I said before, COVID-19 changed everything, but it revealed the value of having this framework in place, in that we were able to immediately respond to a much greater demand. Next slide, please. A common room. With the closure of the mission, our folk who used to frequent the mission no longer have a place. We can provide meals. We can have a place where people can sit down simply to eat, but there's not a place that is theirs. The mission was wonderful for that. I remember last year at a Bible study, I described what we do and other churches do in care homes. We have a service once a month. And a participant in the Bible study who lives in subsidized housing remarked that his building had a common room. And then he added, it's full of scooters, those mobility assist scooters. And he said, can you have a service there? And that was something of an epiphany for me, because it never occurred to me that there was no common room. There is a community in Smiths Falls, particularly with the closure of the mission, that doesn't have a common room. They've got the sidewalk on Beckwith Street, or did prior to the pandemic, and they had the space between the library and the town hall, and they have Tim Hortons and other places around town. But it would be wonderful if the town of Smiths Falls could find a common space, a common room, where people can have light lunch, where they could have an occasional banquet, where they can have an Elvis era entertainment. A community and celebrating within that community. Next slide, please. So our desired end state of our group is to advocate or to find a place where we can have a community hub, a meeting room, a neighborhood, a common space, fully funded with dedicated infrastructure and programming support. Next slide, please. And in the interim, we will find ways to provide this space, this time and this experience through our individual infrastructures and programs, but we'd really like to find a way to have a place for recreation, education, immunization, health assessments like we do with Trinity on Tuesday from time to time, advice, referrals, coffee, puzzles, games, community. Next slide. And of course, we are limited. We have limited funds, and this work is done by volunteers, which creates an administrative burden, which we're able to do, but it's not easy. If we had a more fulsome or permanent response to this need, we can have a sustainable place and sustainable programs for our most vulnerable in town. Our ask this year, I've ranked them, next slide, please. I've ranked them in order of preference. The full cost of food and infrastructure, the cost of food is based on an estimate of $6 per setting, is $110,625. The cost of the food alone is projected to be $103,400. And 30% of the cost of food infrastructure is estimated at $33,187. I would like to say that we're asking for the whole program to be funded. That's up to council, of course, to decide what they're able to do. I know that the grant program is set at 30%. Next slide, please. And also, in addition to funds, if we could have help to find a place, that meeting place, that community hub, that neighborhood, we would be absolutely delighted. Next slide, please. Just a note with governance, Trinity United Church acts as the administrative lead. That's for now. It just speaks to economy of effort. It doesn't speak to special competency or authority. If approved, Trinity administratively will disperse the funds on a proportional basis tied to meals served or intent. And so the money will be placed where the work happens. Again, public administration and governance is preferred, as would be a budgeted response from the town versus a draw on the community grant program. Next slide. In terms of governance and accountability and follow-up, we will meet at least quarterly to review our programs and report, and to advocate, continue in our advocacy for the formation of a community hub, fully funded with dedicated infrastructure and programming support. Next slide. And again, thank you very much for your, not just your support in the grant that was given last year, not just in your support in the top up that was given just a few weeks ago, but in your genuine interest, care, and generosity that characterizes our council and our town. Thank you.
Yes, I'm going to take questions or comments from my colleagues now. And I can only see two, three, oh, there's okay. Anyone have questions or comments? Councillor Dwyer, please. Thanks.
Thank you. And thank you, Reverend Ryan, for coming to provide the synopsis of the program and the benefits that you've provided within our community as part of the conglomerate of service providers in Smiths Falls. I do have a couple questions, just so I can get my own head around where the money would be going. You noted that there was a proposed $7,000 difference between an ask for food to cover off the cost of food and the cost of food plus infrastructure. Can you provide some clarity about what the infrastructure would include?
Oh, that's when we put together the grant request, the cost of the program isn't just the cost of a casserole or a sandwich or a bag lunch. It's also the expense, and I lost a word. The expense carried by the institution or the agency for heat, lights, space, insurance, all that, the whole overhead that makes the place where we provide the service possible. And so that was part of the calculation in terms of the cost of providing the community meals.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. And Madam Chair, with your permission, I do have one more. Reverend Ryan, could you give me an idea of what the demographic makeup of the users are? Are we talking about families? Are they mostly single individuals? Are they all residents of Smiths Falls? Do we know where these residents are coming from?
It's not a complete cross section of Smiths Falls. obviously, but it is a cross-section of ages. We have seniors that come, we have people that come alone, we have people who come as families, we have middle-aged folk, we have people who come for a variety of reasons. Most, we believe, come to satisfy food security issues. They come to eat. And we do know that there are some who come to address social isolation. They come in order to eat with someone else, so they're not alone. We do find in very many cases, people who come to address, well, loneliness, they might contribute to our donation box, but very many of the folk come because, well, they're actually hungry, and this is a good way for them to have a meal without having to exhaust their limited funds.
Thank you.
Mayor Panko, I think you are next.
Yep, thank you. Thank you, Christopher and Michelle, for the presentation and for reminding us how vital support is for this type of program. And I guess initially I just want to thank the relatively small group of volunteers, and that's what it is. It's a fairly small group at each of the providers that are working diligently at and consistently in making sure these meals are prepared. And I know there's two visions. There's obviously the vision during COVID and the vision beyond COVID, and we know the day will come when we're beyond COVID and we can return to in-person dining and that benefit of working against social isolation and the merits of people gathering and having a reason to get out on a Tuesday evening to meet some friends and have some fun and have some chatter and of course a broader picture of a community hub and the merits that brings. And this is an area where I know that it may not fall within directly within municipal traditional funding envelopes. It's not something that we have done a lot of funding in many years past, but I think we have to recognize the merits of social capital and what it means to the individuals, to the families, and to our entire community. If we keep people fed, for one, obviously the other problems that could occur from not being fed are not as profound. But we also worry that the challenges will worsen. And we recognize that COVID will be behind us someday, but with rising housing costs in our community, I look at the charts that were provided, and those rent figures are relevant for some people, but anyone who has to move today is not finding a place to live generally for $1,100 a month. So that means that they're spending more and more of their income on housing, which means obviously less is provided for the other needs. I guess, Christopher, we've been proud to support this. We feel it's extremely meaningful, and I hope council sees a way to provide support this year. We're just not sure what the amount will be, but what is the impact on these families, on these retired people, on these single people, without support? I mean, I guess what's sort of the plan B? And we recognize that it's, as we said, it's people of all ages. We know that there's families living at the Econo Lodge that are coming up and getting meals from every provider every day they're available. And we've got a challenged environment, but so what is the impact if we're not able to provide the funding that's been asked for?
Well, one of the things that this kind of program provides that other programs don't is a social setting. So we're not just about food security. The food bank is about food security, or agencies or food grocery cards can help address food security. What we can provide is, well, it's a community meal. A community meal is different than a basket of food. A community meal addresses, of course, social isolation and helps build community. If we are not funded, the quality of the meals, of course, is greatly affected, but it's possible that the program itself, or parts of the programs, depending upon, if some churches can maintain within their own means or not, but part of the program that includes the social aspect is not just compromised if we're not able to provide, if we're not able to be funded, or we can't afford it, then we lose that whole piece. And people might be able to go to the food bank, of course, and get something to eat, but they've lost a table to sit with their friends. And this, in addition to the closure of the mission, would mean, where else do they have?
Well, the other merit, which I really appreciate the approach, but it's all done without judgment. It's not, there's no means, no income test to determine whether you not get a lunch that day. Everyone wants a lunch, gets a lunch. And I think it provides that.
Provincial and such.
Yeah.
But what the town can provide in addition to funds is reach and advocacy. And just like Trinity, for example, can request funds from the larger denomination, the town may be able to advocate in ways and in places that none of the other groups are able to do individually or even collectively. So that kind of support would be most greatly appreciated as well.
Well, we recognize the ultimate objective here, and hopefully we can continue to work away at that plan. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Alfred?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Reverend Rana, like all my colleagues, we're very grateful for all the work that our faith-based have done, and to have RCHS now taking a lead role is, as you say, invaluable. So I have some questions. You have a common goal with other people in the food security business, namely Community Home Support Lanark County or the Smiths Falls Food Bank. Are they involved in your advocacy group? Have they, in what way have they been involved?
We have had, see, this is a couple of years ago now. We have had meetings that included representation. Oh,
I'm losing you.
Yeah, we couldn't hear
We're
you.
losing you. You're freezing.
Or concern or sharing of information with respect to food security.
Yes, we didn't.
They are less involved in terms of the actual community meals. We do have actually, well, at Trinity, we take advantage of the Good Food Box that's sponsored through the Lions Club. So we try to remain current, not just with what's going on with respect to community meals, but what other resources and opportunities there are that we can apply to what we do.
So if post-pandemic, let's talk about that for a sec. So post-pandemic, needing a hub, how do you see that? Do you see that all of the faith-based or all of the food providers would operate out of this common place that you need? Or how do you envision that? And I'm thinking of the table because it's the closest example that I can think of in order to accomplish something like that. Is that the model that you're looking at?
Yes, it's something like the table. I have personal opinions, but they're just my opinions about how such a thing might work. But something like the table that has like a common infrastructure, so people have a place that they know where it is, they know when it is at all times. It reduces siloing or stovepiping, and yes, not to replace the mission. What we can have, hopefully, would be better than the mission, just in terms of its like physical location and appearance or size and availability of space for activities and such. So yes, I would like to see a single place that the folk who used to frequent the mission and now come take advantage of the community meal programs can have to call their own and have a more fulsome variety of activities and services available.
So I'm sorry, you froze during your answer as to how we didn't hear most of what you said about CHSLC or the food bank being involved in this will you all have a common goal?
Yes.
So we missed most of what you said, and I'm really interested in to hear it. Could you repeat what you said?
Yes. Yes. The piece that we would like to expand is the piece that's possible because we have infrastructure and because we provide meals, not unlike the table. You alluded to the table before, I mentioned the table. So it would be like the table. This is just an idea, but it would include opportunities for education, entertainment. Well, very much like a common space. If you take Van Horn, for example, which is a place where people can meet, have coffee, and call their own.
And so the food security, sorry, Madam Chair, if you don't mind. So you have a dual purpose.
Yes.
And am I understanding you to say that the food bank and something like CHSLC is just about emergency food?
No, I think the Rideau Community Health Services is about much more. It's holistic, and you can bring in resources and opportunities to address other aspects of people's lives. So having a place that is set up initially for community suppers, for example, like the mission was, can easily be expanded because they have a space and they have a time, they have a schedule, time when they're open, where the community can be intentional in providing.
Oh dear.
I wonder if I may, prior to COVID, we were, and sorry, Christopher, you keep coming in and out. We were pulling together the interested organizations and the organizations that were engaging in security.
Yes.
And we were actually pulling the organizations together to do a focus group with a facilitated session to find out and to engage the other organizations so that we're all on the same path and are able to work together to actually support the concept of the neighborhood or a hub, whatever terminology we use, because we see the value in that and how to move that forward. Unfortunately, COVID came, I don't know how else to say it, and many of the organizations had to pivot, and the faith-based organizations that were providing meals had to pivot very quickly to be able to respect the rules and regulations that COVID sort of imposed on us and continue to impose on us. So we have not lost that thought and that the idea of having that hub and that neighborhood to be able to do more than food security, because we understand the need of bringing people together to decrease social isolation, to actually be able to do the education and to pull people together to belong. So that has not been lost, and we continue to have those conversations with that goal being to develop a hub or a neighborhood to be able to do that and to build on the food security, which really has been, unfortunately, what our focus has been since COVID-19 began. It really
but I'm still Michelle and Christopher both, I'm still so at this hub, CHSC is funded by the Southeast Lynn, so they bring a whole bunch of, as you were talking about, relationships. The food bank is funded, or has, at least during COVID, been funded by Feed Ontario and Food Banks Canada. The next round of applications for the federal money from agriculture and agri-food is, there's an intake tomorrow, starts tomorrow, they'll be accepting applications. So community food banks there are five, you guys probably know more about this than I do, but there are five opportunities, five organizations, one of them being a food bank, one of them being community food centers, who works with partners to create community food centers that bring people together to grow, cook, share, and advocate for good food. The food banks are one that is open to being able to apply for this another $100 million. And so some of the relationships that you're talking about are held by people like the food bank or the Southeast Lynn. So I want to know, like, is there opportunities where we haven't taken advantage of, or we haven't, it just seems to me with another round of applications for 100 million tomorrow, and we have both the Salvation Army, community food centers, and Food Banks Canada are able to apply for that money. Groups like yours, where there's, this faith-based, can apply to those five or have joint applications with those five, as I understand. I'm quickly reading through it today, so it would just seem to me, I haven't heard enough about the opportunities that partnering with Food Bank or partnering with CHSLC, bringing them into your advocacy fold would, I think, for the longer term, we're all doing what we can do during COVID. But if we want to work towards a hub, if we want to work towards, giving out food cards so people can do their own shopping as opposed to lining up at the food bank, or community meals that can be delivered by the CHSLC, it's all one part. It's all, to me, all the same thing.
It is, absolutely. So we actually partnered with Community Home Support in the Smith Falls area, as well as out of Brockville. And they have reached out to us in the past to speak about how we can serve each other and work together. The table, so Ramsey Hart at the Table has applied for funds that
Yes, and he gave St. Vincent de Paul and Trinity $3,000 each from the funding that he got last year. So that's always a good relationship. But we have others.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And Ramsey is fairly integral to our conversations.
Yes.
So this is a very small group that that the request is going to Smith Falls. However, there is a much larger food advocacy group within the Smith Falls area that does have partners from many other organizations that come together to have those conversations. And that is the group that we were pulling together prior to COVID to really dive into it further so that we could look at some root cause to see if you can hit food insecurity from the cause and see what we can do to help effect change. So it is a much bigger and much more complex picture than providing meals, and as well providing a space for people to come together and decrease social isolation. So from a complexity perspective, there are multiple layers, of which the broader group, and Christopher, you may be able to speak more about the broader group because you were meeting well before I arrived. And that broader group does and is looking at other opportunities. So community support services, absolutely. Working with Ramsey, we've applied for grants through the United Way and other opportunities. So we do lever the other partnerships and relationships that are out there.
Just the ask is for $110,000. It's unlikely we'll be able to do that, and we'll certainly consider the 30%. But I like you, I feel pretty passionate. Several of my colleagues on council have been working to try and further the food security issues that we have for certainly since COVID started. If there is there a summit of all of the food purveyors, and like, is that what you're planning, Michelle?
A summit, I like that actually. So we did actually meet with the facilitator not too long ago to see if there was an opportunity for us to pull organizations back together again. Unfortunately, the second wave of COVID has again sort of, I think everybody was sort of looking toward the end, And now the second wave has come, and we do understand that it'll be another 6 to 9 months before there's, herd immunity with vaccinations and the population and the numbers that have been immunized. So there is a concept that we should come back together most definitely and have those conversations that we had started and had committed to in February of 2020. And we will get there. We will get back to those. And I'm happy to expand that group, Christopher, and include many of the counselors who have the passion as well. I think that's really exciting.
Well, I don't want, it's wonder the chair hasn't cut me off already, but.
Well, I'm going to now. I think Councillor Brennan, did you have your hand up or were you? No, okay. All right, I think it's,
I mean, I really appreciate all the work you guys have done, and I look forward to the discussion going forward. I mean, there's no doubt that the need is there. I'm not sure that it's exactly within our purview, but just like the hospital request, I mean, it's our community, so we have to stand up. So I want to thank both you and Michelle and Christopher for coming tonight. So I look forward to the discussion going forward. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Brennan. You pretty much summed up that and wrapped it up for us. So I appreciate you doing that. I would just add that, it's a sad world where people can't find food and don't know where they're going to sleep at night. And I know our community has been dealing with that. Years ago, we had started, looking at all of these things. And I think now we're moving forward in a way that we can feel that we've accomplished this, and it's certainly not going to go away. And COVID just makes the whole thing much, much harder to do. So I thank you both, and we will be adding this. The delegations this evening will all be part of our discussion for our community donations grant. And that will be done, I think, at the end of this month, I believe, or I don't know if the clerk's here or if she knows the date. Do you know the date, Nadine, when that's going to be coming back to us?
Yes, my understanding is it's on the agenda for next Monday.
Oh, next Monday night. Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you, Chris and Michelle.
Thank you very much.
The next delegation this evening is Sandra Borelli she's the Executive Director from Big Brothers Big Sisters of Lanark County, and she's going to talk tonight about her organization. Thank you and welcome, Sandra.
Thank you. Thank you for having us. Thank you for inviting us to speak tonight and to speak to sort of how we have been working with the town to deliver youth services in the community. Thank you also for your support last year so that we were able to continue through 2020 and the year that was. And so this isn't a new project for us. What we are asking for is to continue to support the project as it stands and with what we're doing. Of course, having recognized that it is different and it's probably going to be different for the foreseeable future. So, well, I mean, let's not say foreseeable, that's a little bit dark. Let's just say for a few months at least. But in the interim, I wanted to just give a little bit of history, a snapshot of our objectives, what we've done and what we're doing right now. I think I want to just preface by saying that our ask, for those of you who might not know right at this moment, is for $25,000 in order to support the project, largely through the continuation of wages in our project. So basically the history, I think many of you are already aware, is when the Smith Smalls Club for Youth closed in August of 2017. We were called to action by the town because there was a recognized need for someplace for youth to go. And so with a little bit of time, we worked together with the County of Lanark, with the town of Smith Falls, as well as with YAC that had some deep roots in providing youth services in the area so that we could come together and figure out a way to make this happen. And we did. And so in October of 2017, the Youth Center in Smith Falls was born, and we began to provide services out of the youth arena. Thank you for that opportunity through the building owned by the town, which has been a great place for kids centralized to know where we are. So the program has shifted from time to time over the course of since the 2017 opening in terms of when, where, and how. But largely what remains, as a definite is that we are open a minimum of 3 nights a week. Sometimes it was 5. And we're focused on recreation, nutrition, arts, culture, science, and getting our kids moving, getting our kids knowing each other, and providing a really safe place for them to come to. And I think that's kind of the unofficial piece that I like to speak to the most with my background in social and community services, is that we're not just providing some place for kids to go. We're providing a place for kids to go where there are people, trained people, who know how to help when something isn't right for them. And I think that that's the sort of the quiet piece of what we do that I think is most important, and probably more important now than ever before, truthfully. As I've mentioned, we've been providing programming since 2017. We do everything from this sort of the planned activities. So it could be a badminton match, it could be an activity like a craft, that kind of thing, or an off-site activity, which of course we're not doing now, but we have in the past. Really fun things like take them out to Ottawa to laser tag, and take them out to water slides and those kinds of things. So it's what we do on-site, off-site, and even when we're on-site, we're providing the option of engaging in structured programming or just be here. Someplace safe to hang out and see friends and enjoy the company of others while in a safe place. So that's the synopsis of what we have been doing. And like I said, it's about the things that we don't hear that we do that matters probably the most to us, and I think that makes us an important resource to the community. And some of the things that also we are doing through this is things like work experience. So we have 2 youth that are gaining work experience who are in university right now, who are learning the ins and outs of social work because that's what their interest is in. So that's one small piece of what we're providing through this program that we don't talk about as often, and it's a point of pride for us as well that we provide these opportunities. And then again, back to what we were saying about the quiet pieces of what we provide. Certainly during COVID, there was a youth that reached out to our coordinator because this youth found that although there was food available at home, and food seems to be coming up as a recurring theme, certainly during this pandemic and this evening, this youth admitted that there's food, but it's always pizza. It's always pizza. So I share this because it's the little pieces of what we're able to provide that aren't in the reports necessarily, or that aren't spoken about necessarily. And so what we did was we provided this youth with a grocery card to go out and fill the fridge with whatever they wanted to. So those are some of the other ways in which we are providing programming in unofficial ways. So 2020 was certainly an interesting year, no different for us than for anybody else. And so the big question is, what did we do and what can we do going forward with this ask, with these resources that we're asking for you to provide. And so what I can say is that we were really pleased and I think honored is the word I want to use, to have been called upon when the first wave of the pandemic hit, to work with you to help deliver the emergency food delivery program. We're set up for that. We are social service workers, we are social workers, we have infrastructure, and we're available to help in a crisis, and we're available to jump when we need to. And so that's something that we were really pleased to be able to be a part of. And on top of that, we took everything that we do in the centers and we took it to the kids. So we delivered activity kits, we delivered crafting kits. We provided and are still providing engaging online activities. We joined and collaborated with all of the youth centers in the area. So there are 5 of us, and we now have a joint every evening calendar where we're providing activities every evening that kids can log into and enjoy in safety. We porch dropped sports equipment. We porch dropped food boxes. We gift cards. And we committed to ongoing cycled calls to all of our families to make sure, just say hi. When you just say hi, you find out a lot about how you can help and how you can support. So we committed to and are still committed to doing that on an ongoing basis. We call everyone we see probably within a 2-month period and then repeat. So that's one way in which we're keeping our thumb on top of where and how we can help kids that are struggling. So, I mean, that's really largely what we have been doing with the resources that you provided us last year, at least since March, and it is how we continue and plan to continue to support this program. And, you know, just to give you a little snapshot, in December, we were open for only 23 days. And in that time, we had 81 visits total. We provided 79 bags of food for kids who just showed up, and we provided a paper bag full of goodies. We provided 5 big boxes of meal solutions for families who identified as needing them, with gift cards to the independent grocer to go with them. We provided 4 big bags of necessities, things from the pharmacy, you know, hygiene things. And we also provided a boot program and a clothing program. So anybody who didn't have those basic needs told us about it, and we found them what they needed. And so we provided, I think we're at about 21 pairs of boots. In December was the call, and then the clothing, of course, is uncounted. But all this to say that as the year now drew to an end and we come into a new year, we are already positioned to continue doing what we're doing, and we're poised to jump as soon as we're able to open the building again and continue to do what we're doing. So that's me, and I'm Italian, so I speak very fast. So if you have any questions for me, I would be happy to hear them. Thank you.
Are there any comments or questions before Councillor Brennan? Go ahead.
Yeah, thanks for that. And you know that I'm a big supporter of your organization. I mean, there was a hole left, and when the youth center closed, and you guys stepped up big time. And the question I would have is how was the uptake sort of mid lockdown when you weren't really locked down? And how is the space working out for you? Was it working out for you at the youth center?
Okay, so the 2-part question. Sorry, what did you mean by the uptake?
Well, when you were allowed to have kids come in at the youth center, were they coming, or is there a barrier there in terms of the location, or?
Sure. So I can speak to that for sure. So there's 2 pieces to that. The first is obviously we spent a good number of months where we were closed. And so the engagement that we had, off it went, right? And so there's that re-engagement after we reopened. So when we reopened, the engagement was very low. You know, I won't mince words. There were evenings of 2 to 3 kids. And then we decided to explore social media, you know, and where we could improve on that. And by December, we were capping at, you know, Premier Doug Ford's 10 limit. And so we were doing that pretty much routinely throughout the month of December. But it was a slow uptake because we reopened in October. And so that was happening. So that's one piece. Yes, we found a way. Snapchat seems to be the way. But then the second piece is location. It's a difficult location in terms of kids being able to walk. So what that's done is it has changed the demographic to a demographic that's younger, that's getting their parents to drive them. So there's certainly a challenge there in terms of getting the older kids that we really want to see there. So there are a few ideas in the works, and as soon as anything opens up and we can pursue some of them, we will definitely do that. Looking into some potential, you know, drop-in site down at Settlers Ridge, perhaps in at least a pilot test with Legion to see if maybe we can identify why we're not getting some of those older teens in the door. None of that is set in stone. We still have to have our next meeting on that front, but certainly we want to see if that's one of the issues that we're looking at and why we're getting only the younger kids.
Yeah, thanks for that. And through the chair, I mean, you just alluded to you're doing the porch stuff and you're outreaching that way. So good on you. I mean, we need the youth engaged. We really need them to be feeling part of the community. And I know that in the coming days is going to be tougher. And so we need your organization to be there for us. And I appreciate that.
Thank you. Much appreciated. We're doing what we can. Yeah, we're trying.
Thank you. Mayor Panko?
Thanks, Sandra, to yourself and your team for what you're doing for our youth. I guess 2 questions. One, obviously this has been a real difficult time for young people. They're trying to right now, especially they're being forced to do homeschooling and in the early stages of the pandemic, mental health challenges for all cases, but like far more profound now than it has ever been. So, this first question, just what role do you play in trying to connect people, connect youth to resources, or the role that your staff plays? And secondly, now that we are in complete lockdown and it may get even more challenging, what are your plans to get for the outreach to ensure that you can, I guess, check in on the youth that need help, and what are some gaps in what you may need to support them? In other words, gaming systems or computers or tablets. I'm just thinking there might be people in the community who have something hanging around that they may be willing to donate that can really help some young people get through some real difficult times.
Okay, so I guess I'll answer that in the two parts that you asked. And then the first piece is tricky because we are a social service agency. However, a good portion of our people here are, social workers. A number of them are social workers with social work backgrounds and could perhaps provide sort of the crisis counseling itself, if you will. But our scope of practice isn't that. So what we do here is more of the connecting them with the people who are doing that and making sure that the barriers between them and that service are eliminated. Some of the things that that we do will be make the call for them, with them, and join them in a conversation that they need to have. So we, I like to say that our team really goes above and beyond. It really does. As a matter of fact, one of my employees called and asked yesterday if she could possibly make some photocopies for a kid who doesn't have a printer and is trying to do homeschooling. So it's not a service we provide, but are we going to? Absolutely. And so the second part of that is, the question about what do we need? I feel like that's a harder one to answer because it keeps changing. It keeps changing. But I will say that we actually learned that we do have some resources to buy some tablets for our kids. So as a part of our check-in on a cyclical basis, as I mentioned earlier, we'll certainly be checking to see who needs those at home. They were intended for us to buy for the center, but they're no good there if we're not there. So can we provide it? Can we loan it? Can we give it? So those are all things that we're looking at ironing out in the next couple of months.
Great. Well, thanks for playing such a vital role to our youth in our community.
Thank you. Did you have it?
Just a quick question, Sandra. Thank you, Madam Chair. How many do you register the kids? Like how many do you have registered with the youth center here in Smith Falls?
The first question is easy. Yes, we register them because we have to. It's part of our policies and procedures that we always know who we're working with. We have their emergency contact details, all those kinds of things. How many we have registered is a less simple answer, simply because they register once and then they're welcome to join us and come as many times as they want. So as I mentioned earlier, as an example, in the 23 days that we were open in December, we had 81 visits. And of those 81 visits, 23 of them were individual youth. So 23 unique kids.
So just I get that the visits are not necessarily translate to different people,
yes. But
how many do you have registered at the youth center entirely? Not more than 23.
It's a really good question. I'm a little stumped because we report on that annually, and I've never added up the years. So I'm afraid I don't have an exact answer for that question.
Okay. Well, it would be interesting to me to know how many you have registered at the youth center.
So is the question about how many we've had registered like since we began, or say?
Oh, since you had registered like at the beginning of 2020 or the end of 2019, because 2020 has been kind of a weird.
I can certainly put that together and send that off to you. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Sandra, for your presentation, and thank you for the good work you do. Big Brothers and Big Sisters have been in our community and serving us, the youth in our town well for a long time. We appreciate that work that you do. And I know that it's especially hard right now. I know with fundraising and being able to be places with students and young youth, it's difficult. COVID has not made all of these things easy, but thank you for adapting and doing all those visits and the things that are really helping the youth in our community. And as I said before, your ask will be discussed next week, next Monday night at our council meeting, and you'll hear from us then. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our last delegation this evening is Mr. Tony Humphrey from the Railway Museum of Eastern Ontario. And of course, he's going to talk about his beautiful museum. Welcome, Tony.
Hi. I feel like I'm welcoming everybody into my home. Welcome. I dropped in. Could I have the first slide up, please? Thanks, Dave. Okay, what is a railway museum? What part does it play in the identity of Smith Falls? Well, for nearly 40 years, the Railway Museum has been a tourism and cultural draw for Smith Falls in the area, not only featuring the railway industrial history of the area, but serving as an archive for the history of the railway workers and their families. What do we offer the community besides being the largest quantifiable tourist draw? Well, the museum offers a unique setting that area residents, retired or not retired, to volunteer, share their life skills, and perhaps learn additional skills, adding to their quality of life. We have seen a 60% increase in the museum volunteers in the past 18 months, by the way. We have been very inventive in our programming and outlook towards revenue sources. Our dining car acquisition prior to the pandemic played a significant role in securing, I believe it's the first Smith Falls feature-length film, which was about 60% filmed at the museum and in Smith Falls. We've, of course, the Smith Falls Museum's legacy project has been developed and will aid the museum in the long-term viability and sustainability. I'll go on to say it's been, as you know, you can probably see I don't know if you've been disseminated our financial statement from last year. Could I have the next slide, please? Dave? Yeah, it's just going on to talk about our volunteers. If our financial statement's been disseminated to you, I imagine, like everybody else, you can see what kind of year we've had. 2019 was such a banner year for us. We had a decrease in revenue last year of 107,000. Move on to our next slide, please. As you see, we're almost at our last, okay, there's our next slide. I'm particularly proud of this one. This was our last winter's project. Much work has been done to the museum. We've taken advantage of our increase in our volunteer base and our volunteer skill set to do significant work and upkeep on the museum that was in dire need. The displays have all been changed. We have been going through our inventory and dispersing things. We've dispersed with a lot of things that were not actually related to this area. We are the Railway Museum of Eastern Ontario. We have put them towards our bottom line. Could I have the next slide, please, Dave? The overnight in the caboose, as our figures there, 62 nights, 154 guests. We didn't have the people staying for 1 week this time because, of course, we didn't have any international travelers as we had in 2019, 2017, 2018. We're tagged as a super host on Airbnb. Next slide, Dave. The community nights, that's goes in with our community partnership with local entertainers. That goes in with our diversification. We have been trying to be inventive in fundraising sources. Something we're still accessing now. We're looking at other ways to, I guess, redefine ourselves and look at into the future, we don't see as, I guess as everybody does, we don't see as a sudden end to this. And will life ever be back to what we refer to as normal? I don't know. Next slide, Dave. We have a larger online presence. We're selling through our gift shop website, calendars, you name it. We're looking at the most profitable things and what we can turn the most money on. Next slide. Yes, a very, very big hit. We owe a thank you to Becky for the invite on this one. We did very, very well on the bright boxes for Christmas. We had it seems to be a constant line where we're taking out for curbside delivery for the boxes. Next slide. Oh yes, the movie. Just so everybody knows, I am a professional movie extra now. I received $142.64. So that makes me a professional movie star, I guess, or not a star, but we had a great time doing it. It was, by the way, the shot in the background of the three of us waving there with the fake snow. We started at 8 o'clock in the evening and, no, 6 o'clock in the evening. And that was filmed at 3:40 in the morning. So doing movies is a lot like working on the railroad. You hurry up and wait. But I don't know how many people have seen the movie. It featured a lot of cuts from Smith Falls and from the museum, of course. Next slide, please. Uh-oh, it's gone dark.
I believe that's the last slide, Tony.
Oh, we had, okay, we had there was one of my favorite, my favorite one in there, and that of course is the dining car that we have promoting. Anyway, that's about all I can say. We have our ask for 20,000. There's probably going to be some questions about monies owing. Yes, we do. We'd like to work on a repayment for that. As you can see, I don't know if you have our financial sheet, but any questions about it, I'm here to
Thank
take
you,
them.
Tony. We'll take questions or comments now from anyone that would like to. Mayor Panko.
Thanks, Tony. And I admit I'm a little bit surprised you're here tonight and not in Hollywood filming another movie. But I guess the pandemic keeps you close by.
It does. It does.
I think everyone enjoyed the movie, and it was, I guess, very heartwarming to see our little train museum out there featured as in such an important spot and well highlighted. I believe it's now 5 years ago when you first came with a 4-year vision, I believe it was, to launch the museum into, I guess, self-sustainability. Mm-hmm. And a lot of action and a lot of things have been done to increase revenue streams. And I think you can be quite proud of revenue. I just just looking forward to summer of 2021 and anticipating that we may be back to more of a normal and hopefully more people able to travel and experience our Railway Museum of Eastern Ontario. What plans do you have going forward to continue to expand your revenue streams to, I guess, hopefully reach the point of self-sustainability at some point in time?
Yes, well, I alluded to our legacy project. We have, it's been a dream of mine because, we would like to see the museum go on into the indefinite future. And I've been, basically what it is that when people either would like to bequeath us money on their passing or prior to it or whichever, whether it's $500 or $5,000, it goes into the legacy, and the legacy fund the interest on it will will be administered by a board and come back to us. That goes for the long-term sustainability of the museum. Different options for fundraising. The Dine card certainly is one. We only had the opportunity with COVID last year to rent it out for one opportunity. Worked very well. We're working right now to develop other programs with it, and also for renting it out. With COVID and either with the restrictions that we have been under, even when they were relaxed last year, with smaller gatherings, et cetera, it leads to opportunities for the museum, because we're not seeing people who are getting married now and having 300 people. We're getting people, they're getting married and they're having 30. Now, this is a great opportunity for the museum and for Smith Falls. These are the things we're looking at. And also our online presence. We need to be selling more stuff online. One of the challenges we have, and I know I'm getting just off track a bit, we have hired last year, for Young Canada Works, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And of course, these young people come and work for us. We have to pay them every 2 weeks. They get paid. We're still outstanding close to $18,000 from the federal government from programs from last year. It was so bad last September, I asked Lisa to call up Young Canada Works and tell Young Canada Works if we didn't receive money soon that we were going to have to lay them off. Even though they're funding us at 100%, what I'm saying is they're damn slow in doing it. So it's kind of makes you gun shy about like where to go forward with hiring again this year.
Thanks, Tony.
I don't see any other hands or questions. Oh, sorry, Councillor Dwyer, did you have your hand up? Sorry. Did you have a comment?
I did, but Madam Chair, you can go first.
No, I was just going to end, so go ahead.
Oh, okay. Tony, you had mentioned right at the end of your presentation a comment about debt repayment or fund repayment to the municipality. I don't think I understand what that is, and I don't think I saw it in your in the financial statements that you circulated to council. Can you just explain a little bit more? Is that a repayment to us as the municipality or other organizations or a bank?
No, it's not, Councillor. It's a debt that we owe the town, and it was for our part in Lisa for administration. Our tax, we got our taxes paid. We're up to date with everything, but with the money's not coming in for the government, we just don't have the money.
Okay, no, that's sufficient, Tony. Thanks for the response. I did have another question just related to your revenues. I would like to think from experience in other communities that once you are on the market of Hollywood North, that producers are going to be beating down your door to come film more movies here. But I wondered if you found, given that COVID was such a restriction on visitor experience and revenue generated therein, was the filming a nice way to offset that deficit, or did you find that that it didn't make up as much of the budget as perhaps it maybe should, considering the appeal of our venue?
I will say I was hoping for more revenue. The museum brought in close to $4,000 for basically a week. They had us tied up with changing the program, so we did all right that way. We looked at it, Nikki, Councillor, as opening the door. This is a first. I have been trying personally to get this done for the last 3 years, to get a movie script. I think we have an excellent venue between the town, between Heritage House, and between our museum for doing movies, especially period movies, with the equipment we have. So it was an opening. we got them in, and I have heard before this last outbreak that there is talk of them coming back again.
That's excellent.
So it's not only good, it's good for the town, it's good for us all.
Yeah, I mean, good for you, Tony. It's reassuring to see that you've been plugging this so hard and your hard work has paid off and people are paying attention. And I do truly believe that once you get your foot in the door, that these things have a way of stimulating further activity. So hopefully within the next year or two, we'll see more opportunity for movies. The only warning, of course, I'll give you is to be prepared, because I think if Almont is any example, after you say yes once, you get flooded, and you have to have a system in place in order to manage and also recover appropriately the cost of allowing them into your community to essentially take over for a set period of time.
Thank you. Councillor McGuire, you had your hand up, I think.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair, and thanks a lot for coming tonight, Tony. I love the pictures. It's like, if you haven't got a calendar yet, now would be the time to get your 2021 Railway Museum calendar. I had a question, like this is a unique ask because usually the money's going out, but in this situation, we're putting some money out, but we're also taking some money back in. I was wondering if, just off the top of your head, what do you pay to the town in a year for taxes, water, and any other fees that may come forward?
Well, I can rhyme that out pretty quick, Councillor. The taxes last year, of course, fixed costs. Our insurance was last year $6,000. The water and sewer was $1,600. Our electricity is another $2,900. Gas payments, which has come down since our new furnace, is $3,000. The property taxes last year were $5,802, and I believe the sheriff for administration last year was a little over $20,000.
Okay, and that $20,000 for administration covers?
It covers Lisa.
Okay.
Yes.
So there's still net money coming into the town from the Railway Museum than what's going out, it sounds like.
Yeah, we're giving you more than we're getting back. Yes. Yes.
Okay. All right. Well, thanks for coming tonight. Those are all my questions.
Okay, Mr. McKenna, go ahead.
Just a point of order or point of clarification. I was looking for the financials. I didn't seem to receive any. So if they're out there and circulated, could I get a copy, please?
Thank you.
They came in a separate email to us, so that's probably why. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It was just one page, and it was in another email, not the one Tony had forwarded us.
So it wasn't part of our council package then.
Well, I think it was, but it came in two different emails.
All right. Sorry.
times.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Tony. Thank you for being here tonight. I have the pleasure of being the council rep on your board, and I know you work hard. And the interesting thing, my colleagues have said basically what I would like to, but I would like to add that if I've been over there and watching you, especially on your days, and I know that you and Lisa organized the museum, so you had work days and you had visiting days or people staying days, so that you weren't, you were doing your social distancing. But I just want to say, I think if we had to pay to upkeep that museum, the number of hours that how many of you are there now? 15? How many volunteers are there?
I think we're up to about 17 or 18 dedicated volunteers.
Okay, so if we were paying those gentlemen, and I think there's some women as well, by an hourly rate and what they've done, you have done an amazing job this pandemic at upkeep, and the museum has never looked as good, in my opinion. And I know when it opens and we have Polar Express and we have all the things that are your money makers, it'll be back in action again. And so I thank you for coming tonight.
Thank you very much.
Okay, that is the end of our delegations. I do need now a motion to adopt the minutes of Monday, November 9th, Monday, December 14th, and Monday, December 21st, please. Councillor Dwyer, thank you. Seconded by Councillor Brennan. All in favor? Thank you. Now CAO Director's Reports. I think I copied them all down, Cian Morris, but if I forget someone, please interject. Is there any order that can we start with Economic Development Director Jennifer Miller?
Sure, that's good. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just 2 short items for you this evening. So as you know, we created a Merry and Bright Christmas campaign to support our local retailers, and 440 boxes went to 17 participating businesses. So we invested in significant marketing efforts in order to encourage people to keep their Christmas shopping local. And what we've realized is nearly $40,000 in direct sales were achieved for the participating retailers. So a big thank you goes out to everyone who shopped locally this Christmas, and I encourage you to keep that going. And the second piece is I'm pleased to announce that 2 of our Smiths Falls projects to support local businesses have been named as finalists in the Economic Developers Council of Ontario 2020 Awards of Excellence. The Smiths Falls Picnic Program, created by our department, along with the Chamber of Commerce and DBA's local subscription box, were both among the 24 projects selected as finalists from 105 applications. And we're honored that our projects have been selected, and they reflect a really strong partnership in this community. It was a very challenging year, of course, and this was a nice way to be recognized. The winners will be announced at the EDCO conference this winter. Thank you.
See, clapping all around, Jennifer. I also, it made my life easy. It was fun to just go and order a box and deliver it to someone and know that you're helping the community as well as making someone happy with it. They were great gifts. All of our stores that participated, it was a wonderful event, and congratulations to you and your departments. That's great. Thank you. Next up is Director Art Manhire.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just one quick update. The province had announced that there was going to be emergency childcare services for essential workers. They had started it or wanted to start last week with the extension of the school closures. They have extended that till the end of the 23rd. So we had volunteered to be part of that. So the province and the county have selected us to run daycare out of Thurber Street. We had staff on site today. Our first participants will be there tomorrow. The province also announced today a change in the list of people that qualify for the emergency child care service. So I would encourage you to go to the county website, and they have a list there. The county is doing the registration for the program, and as quickly as we can.
Director Manhire, we didn't quite hear the end of that.
Sorry.
After the website, you sent us to your website.
Yes, the county website will have the list of the services that qualify for for the daycare, and I would encourage them to contact the county if you're looking for daycare.
Good, thank you very much. Next is our clerk Nadine Bennett is going to do the report for our fire chief tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. And just as a note, our IT coordinator advised that that's a province-wide internet issue that we're having right now. So we'll just try to bear through it. So on behalf of Chief Cheeseborough, I am bringing forward a update from the Emergency Control Group. So our Emergency Control Group met last on January 7th, and it was our 45th meeting since the beginning of this pandemic. I can state that he did provide the stats, but they've changed quite significantly since then. At the meeting, he did note that locally in the Lanark, Leeds, and Grenville catchment area, there were 45 active cases, and I checked their website just before the meeting, and that has been updated to 31 active cases. So there was a decrease there in our local catchment area. Just to note that staff have been in contact with the Smiths Falls Hospital and that they're reporting slightly above average testing. They've expanded the testing prior to the holidays and now have returned to their normal hours. The Lanark Leeds and Grenville Health Unit is in attendance at our meeting, and their new dashboard is up and running on their website. So we encourage all residents to check that out. It does have the cases and geographic area. The Pfizer vaccine arrived in the region on January 11th, and our understanding is it's being stored at the Kingston General Hospital. The health unit is going to be coordinating getting patients and staff from long-term care to Kingston for the vaccines. The operational impact of the potential lockdown was discussed, and that was discussed at our group. At the time, we were expecting more news about schools, and as everyone is aware, the schools have been closed for another 2 weeks at this point in time. The town work protocols are in place, and we're using a combination of people working from home where possible, alternating in the workplace, and safety precautions, including physical distancing in the office and in vehicles. And we're getting more masks and PPE for our staff here in the town. Just a note that Chief Cheeseborough did participate in a radio interview with Lake 88 and Brian Perkin. The other person that was interviewed was Chief Chofie from the town of Perth, and they discussed emergency management in a program that's aired on Saturdays at 9 a.m. at Lake 88, and it's called All About the House. Our understanding is that that message will also be shared again through the Lake 88. And just another note, our understanding is that Premier will be releasing more information tomorrow about our current status and possibly tighter lockdowns measures. So we will be watching that, our ECG will be watching that. And if needed, the group will meet again later this week. So that's all I have tonight. Thank you.
Councillor Brown, you have a question?
No, just a comment. I heard the chief on Saturday morning on Lake, and he did an excellent job. Very clear and concise, and I'm proud of him. So great job, Chief.
We'll let him know. Thank you.
Good, thanks. That's great. Okay. I think Treasurer Kazil, CEO Morris, did she have a report or?
Madam Chair, so we can that concludes the director's report. So
all right, thank you. I need a motion to move in camera, please. Motion by Councillor McKenna, seconded by Councillor Alford. All in favor? We'll move in camera now. Thank you for your patience. The rising report is that we discussed personal information about an identifiable individual respecting a committee appointment, and we're going to add that, please, for priority issue C, and we'll discuss that. So moving on to priority issues now. So yes,
Madam Chair?
Mayor Penko, yes.
Yes, I discovered upon the in-camera session that I have a professional relationship with the identifiable individual in the in-camera session. So I remove myself from discussion and remove myself from any discussion further on the agenda.
Thank you for that. Okay, moving on to priority issue A, the new consolidated cost-sharing joint services agreement, County of Lanark report 2021-001 with Treasurer Kazil. Welcome, Treasurer.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I'm here this evening to obtain Council's approval for authorization of an amended cost-sharing joint services agreement with the County of Lanark. So just a bit of background. In April 2019, Council was advised that the county had a CRA Canada Revenue Agency audit, which concluded that they should have been charging HST on our shared services. The CRA's position was that HST applies at all time as there is no specific exemption in place, hence a taxable supply. The county and the town does not agree with the CRA's position, and their interpretation of the HST guide is that an exemption clearly does exist. To that end, as of June 26, 2020, the county filed a notice of objection. However, government legislation requires that we had to pay the assessed amounts while under appeal. As of December 23rd, staff reached out to the county for a status update and were advised that the CRA did indeed receive their appeal, but due to the pandemic, that appeal remains outstanding. The total HST that stemmed from the audit was $821,000, but the town does receive federal and provincial rebates of approximately 86% of that. So $710,000 was received back, and our expense portion of that was $111,000. So anticipating that outcome, we had set that up at the end of 2019, so there will be no budgetary impact to the 2020 budget. So part of that report brought forward to council, the county committed to working on a new agreement, which will be effective January 1st, 2020. That clearly states the county is acting as our agent, rendering this shared services arrangement HST exempt. So the agreement being presented this evening has been reviewed by Allen and Partners, our auditors for both parties, as well as legal counsel. Unfortunately, the ongoing formation and review of this new agreement was delayed as we were focusing on the pandemic, but we're here this evening to get that hopefully rectified. So, yet any questions?
Councilor McGuire.
Thanks, Madam Chair, and thank you, Treasurer Kazil, for continuing to work on this file for us. I'm wondering, is there any expected financial implications from going to the weighted model versus the previous agreement?
For 2021, the impact is, and it's something to kind of keep, the last 5 years when they do a reconciliation, we typically were in a deficit position, the previous way of doing the actual beds. So it was difficult to kind of know from year to year. So with the weighted assessment, it will be more consistent. The difference for the 2021 budget will be an $18,000 reduction.
Great, thank you.
I see agreement. Can I have show of hands? Okay, thank you. And you're up again. The next priority issue is the interim tax bylaw report 2021-002.
So for this, thank you, Madam Chair. So I'm here this evening seeking Council's authorization of a bylaw to impose an interim tax levy for all property tax classes. The interim levy is required to provide the necessary cash flow to meet the obligations of the town until the annual tax rate has been set and final notices are prepared, which is typically at the end of May, first part of June. This bylaw is required prior to the end of January that staff can initiate the billing process for the 2021 interim taxes the first week of February. And to be consistent with prior years, the installment due dates are typically the end of February and the end of April.
Councilor Brennan, go ahead. Do you have a question?
Yeah, it happens every year, and I guess we have to pay the bills. So I support that to pay the bills.
Yep. All right. Our last priority issue, Clerk Bennett, are you going to speak to this?
Sure.
Sure, I can.
Committee appointment.
Thank you. So tonight I'm here to ask council's support to bring forward a resolution to the next meeting of council to appoint Mr. Rob Dobson to the Downtown Business Association. As everyone is aware, Mr. Dobson owns a business in the Downtown Business Association area, being Lockmaster's Tap House, and the DBA has reviewed the application and requested council support to bring this forward next week.
Great. Thank you very much. Again, thumbs up, everybody. Okay. And that ends our meeting this evening. I only want to, did anyone, I guess we don't usually do that until our council meeting anyway, so forget that, I said that. I need a motion to adjourn.
Well, what you could do, Chair, is appoint someone to ask the question next week. As Chair, you can appoint someone or take that on yourself.
Would someone like to do that for next week? Councilor McGuire, would you like to do that?
Councilor Dwyer had her hand up.
Oh, did you? Oh, okay,
Yeah.
Councilor McGuire, go for it. We'll be looking forward to that. I need a motion to adjourn. Councilor Alford, seconded by Councilor Brennan. All in favor? Have a good week, everyone.